are going to have an uncomfortable conversation about Mike McDaniel on today's show after Week 15 as Miami moves to 6-8 on the season. Season is essentially over in that 20-12 loss against the Texans because if I'm going to be honest, I am fed up with Mike McDaniel and I have had enough of the Miami Dolphins head coach over the past 3 seasons. I'm going to tell you why it has not worked, why I have had enough, and what the Dolphins need to do this upcoming offseason. But let me get the temperature check of you guys down in the comments section. This is a democracy. This is an open forum, if you will. What say you? Would you fire Mike McDaniel after the conclusion of this NFL season? Type F for fire, type K for key. And yes, Mike McDaniel has a 26-22 record as Miami Dolphins head coach in his 2.5 seasons, about to be 3 seasons. He is 0 for 2 in the postseason, so 26-24 in total. But this is the staggering number that I can't shake. He is 3-14 as Dolphins head coach against teams that have a 500 record or better, and that was heading into Week 15 against the Houston Texans. So after yesterday, it is now 3-15 against teams with a better than 500 record. And enough is enough. It feels like I am in the Dark Knight. Enough with the clown. I am sick and tired of watching this team crumble against good competition. It is all fun. It is all games when the Dolphins are hanging 30 points on teams that stink, like the New York Jets, like teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New England Patriots, the Cleveland Browns, the Denver Broncos last season. But when it's time to put up or shut up against good teams like the Ravens, the Packers, the Buffalo Bills, the Houston Texans, the Kansas City Chiefs, this team consistently no-shows on the offensive side of the football field. And we know the issues on the defensive side as well, but it's even more apparent when it comes to the offense, which is the most concerning part, if you're asking me, because your head coach, Mike McDaniel, prides himself on having an innovative offense, and he is an offensive-minded head coach who calls the plays. The offense does not translate against good competition. Look at the last 10 games against teams 500 or better for the Miami Dolphins. 12 points this past Sunday, 17 against Green Bay. The one game that you actually won against the Los Angeles Rams, you scored 23, but it still had to come on a bazillion field goals. You couldn't even punch it in the end zone a bunch of times. Yes, you were able to have 2 good consecutive weeks against the Cardinals and Bills in Week 8 and Week 9, but the Bills' defense is absolutely horrific, and the Cardinals, you lost that game anyway. But then on the right side of your screen, 3 points with Skylar Thompson in Week 3. 10 against the Bills in Week 2. And then the last 3 games of last season where you lost 56-19 to the Baltimore Ravens, 21-14 against the Buffalo Bills, and then 26-7 against the Chiefs in the wild card. What is the theme here? Big games for Mike McDaniel in this offense equals subpar offense. When they go up against good defenses, they go up against top competition, they do not show up. They do not play. And to me, that is a clear indictment on the head coach, Mike McDaniel. Sure, Tua Tagovailoa can get some blame. The offensive line can get some blame. But to me, it is on the game plan. It is on the culture. It is on the schematic points of this offense that Mike McDaniel is putting out there every single week. It is very clear to me that this offense has been figured out to a degree by opposing teams that have competent coaching. I always talk about competence. I can't stand incompetence. Well, it seems like anytime you go up against good coaching and good teams, this Dolphins offense becomes incompetent. And to me, that's because of the team building of the offensive line and the inability to run the ball in between the tackles and as a whole, but also the coaching and play calling of Mike McDaniel. And we're going to go through why the offense has stunk, in my opinion, coming up in just a second. But we are still dropping daily content on the Miami Dolphins. I know the season is pretty much over. There are 3 games left. They technically still can make the playoffs. It's a long shot. But we'll document everything as well as be the number 1 spot for off-season coverage on this football team. Hit that sub button, almost 100 subscribers away from 66,000. All right, when you look more in depth into the issues on this Miami Dolphins offense, number 1 is that they simply cannot run the football. And you talk about the struggles over the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks against teams against good records? Well, the reason why they were pretty good offensively in those two games against the Cardinals and Bills, where they scored 27 points in consecutive weeks against teams that are 500 or better, is because they had over 130 rushing yards in both of those games. But over the last 6 weeks, they have been the worst team in football at running the ball. They are averaging 58.1 yards per game on the ground in their last 6 games. That is atrocious. That is beyond abysmal. It's hard to fathom a running game being that poor. And when you look at those numbers, you put it all on Tua. You put it all on this quick passing game to carry your offense, and that just simply is not sustainable. And for this number to be as bad as it is concerning. And then you take it to a macro perspective, and you just look at the entire season as well. They are 26th in the National Football League at yards per game, 101.4 on the ground. And to me, this is not an issue with your running backs, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, and Jalen Wright. This is an issue with your offensive line and the way you scheme up your running game as well. But specifically, it's hard to ignore how bad the interior offensive line is. Aaron Brewer at center has been your second best offensive lineman this year behind Teron Armstead. He's actually been a home run hire by Chris Grier, or home run signing, I should say. But when you look at the plan at offensive guard, it has been a joke. Robert Jones is unplayable. He is the 52nd ranked offensive guard in football with a 56.1 PFF grade. But what is even more laughable is the fact that Liam Eichenberg is still employed, the 59th offensive guard in football, 51.5 grade from Pro Football Focus at right guard. I'm telling you right now, if we go into next season with one of these two guys as the starting offensive guard at left guard or right guard, this team should not even take the football field in week 1 because we know how the season's going to go. These two guys need to be off this roster after the season. Liam Eichenberg might be the worst football player on this team. I watched him get absolutely abused by that Texans defensive front yesterday afternoon. He was partially the reason why you lost that game. When Tua got strip sacked, why did he get strip sacked? Is because Liam Eichenberg got bull rushed 10 yards back into Tua's face. Tua had to take a step back and then got hit blindside by Will Anderson Jr. for the fumble. Eichenberg consistently failed in the run game, in the pass game. He needs to go ASAP. And we'll talk about 2 more issues with the defense in just a second. But we are sponsored by GameTime, the #1 ticketing app out there. In this holiday season, it is honestly the best gift you can give someone in terms of going to a live event, whether it's a live concert, a live sporting event, comedy show, theater. GameTime is the best way to get your tickets. They have so many great features, one of them being GameTime Picks, which filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One more home game for Miami this upcoming week against the 49ers. But if you're not in Miami, you can just go to any local event in your area when you purchase your tickets on Game Time. I bought tickets for me and my parents as a Christmas gift to go to Mavericks Timberwolves in Dallas on Christmas. That will be a lot of fun. Like I said, it's the perfect gift, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is because Game Time is the best way to do it. They have all-in pricing, which shows you the total price of your ticket up front. Rather than getting blindsided by fees at checkout, you get a panoramic view of the seat in the app before you buy. There are so many reasons why Game Time is the best. Their features make it easy to purchase your tickets, and trust me, I like easy. So download Game Time today. Use code CHATSPORTS when signing up to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but use promo code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's game time. The second issue with the offense is that I think they have relied too much on motion. And this was what made the Dolphins offense so good in the first year and a half with Mike McDaniel, is because opposing defenses haven't seen an offense use motion as much as the Miami Dolphins did. But I believe it has been figured out, and at this point, it is counterproductive for your offense. And this was an interesting point pointed out by Chris Kaufman, who dropped a quote, and this came from a little thing that Tua did with Keith Lee on social media. Keith Lee is some TikTok food guy. He says, but you're thinking of all before that happens. And then you're like, okay, does the clock give me time? Oh, shit, I can't set hot. Like, it's an issue. He was talking about all the motion and trying to recognize pre-snap what the opposing defense is showing, whether it's a shell, whether it's a two high look, one high look, cover three. Like, he's trying to process all of this. He's trying to get the play call to the players, but he's also trying to signal when to motion because it's all this bang, bang play. I think there's too much onto his plate pre-snap to where if he doesn't get the look that he thought he was going to get and he sees that post-snap, that's where he has to just check it down because he gets it post-snap. He doesn't see anything. He's like, oh, shit, I just got to drop the ball down because I didn't get what I wanted and thought I was going to see because I'm worried about the motion pre-snap. And he kind of detailed that as well after the loss against the Chiefs in the wild card last December, or January, excuse me. He said that I would attest to the communication errors we've had. Am I hearing the right formation? Okay, we're getting out, but we have two motions that we have to use. So it's maybe 9 seconds left on the clock. We're motioning. It's about 5 seconds. We don't have time to change, or so now we got to play. And I mean, we got to throw where our hots would be, but I mean where they pressured. Spag had a good game plan, and they executed well against us. So Tua has been alluding to the fact that all of this motion might actually be counterproductive. And this is not me saying motion is a bad thing. Motion is a positive thing in the NFL. It can help tell you what is happening pre-snap. If you motion the running back out and a linebacker follows all the way to the out, you're probably getting man, right? If you go out there and then the corners change, but really nothing changes in terms of man-to-man assignments, it looks like it's going to be zone, and then you could figure out with the safety. So motion helps you tell what the defense is going to be in. But if you are constantly motioning left, right, two different guys before you have to snap the ball, and it's happening on 85% of your plays, it becomes an issue for the quarterback. I don't care if you're Tom Brady or if you're Tua Tagovailoa. If you have to worry about getting your guys in the right formation, motioning two guys, and also trying to figure out what's happening from the defense's perspective, it's going to be difficult to get your offense in the right play for that defense that they're putting out there. I think there's too much motion going on, and that is on Mike McDaniel. But who is to blame? Who is the most to blame for the Dolphins' offensive struggles when they play good teams? Is it Tua Tagovailoa? Is it Mike McDaniel? Or is it the person who put this roster together, Chris Grier? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Last thing that we got to talk about is that it's Checkdown City for Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm kind of going through it all here. Can't run the ball, to me, is more of a Chris Grier issue. Too much motion is a Mike McDaniel issue. And Checkdown City could be a Tua Tagovailoa issue. So it's all of these guys combined, but I just want to detail what's going wrong with this Dolphins team against good football teams. Tua Tagovailoa has an average depth of target of 6.0 yards on the dot. That is 30th in the NFL. Just in case you were wondering at home, there's 32 NFL teams. So he's right at the bottom in the National Football League in average depth of target. What is that telling you? Well, he's not pushing the ball downfield. It's either screens at the line of scrimmage, checkdowns 1 or 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, or behind the line of scrimmage passes. Which, yes, if you scheme them right and you call them at the right time and your offensive linemen execute getting out there and getting out ahead to block, they can be very successful. But it is not a sustainable offense if you are just constantly throwing and relying on yak and you can't pressure the defense vertical. If it's only horizontal quick game, then they could just come up and tackle. And if you just look specifically over the last 4 weeks for Tua, since week 11, he has an average depth of target of 5.9 yards. It's actually worse than his season long, and it's last in the National Football League out of all starting quarterbacks. It is just right now for the Dolphins all checkdowns and screens offensively. And as I mentioned, that is not sustainable. It does not work consistently. Mixing them in there is nice, but you can't do that the majority of your times dropping back to pass. And we detailed that last week. Tua Tagovailoa had the 5th most dropbacks that were screens in the NFL going into Week 15. How is that possible considering he missed 4 games? He had the number 1 dropback percentage of 18.3% that were screens. That was 3.3% higher than number 2 in the National Football League. It's just so much schematically relying on screens and yak for these running backs, tight ends. And you're not threatening defenses vertically like you have the past 2 years, which is why the offense has not been as good this season, and it has not been sustainable in cold weather games, in bad condition games, against good teams that know how to take away the big play. It just hasn't been good, and I think that is to blame on Mike McDaniel as well as Tua and Chris Grier, which is why I think they might need to clean house and specifically fire Mike McDaniel. And if you are firing Mike McDaniel, I'm probably getting rid of Chris Grier. And I am completely fine with getting rid of those two this offseason. I would probably push for that to happen because we know this rebuild ever since Chris Grier got hired in 2015, 2016 has been leading up to the last 3 years. And it has not panned out. It has not resulted in a playoff win, and it will not result in a playoff win this season. So it's time to go back to square one and hopefully get this next build correct. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed. Listen, I'm going to tell you how it is, and this is how I feel about the status of this organization. So hit that sub button because if they do fire McDaniel, Chris Grier, we're going to have a lot to talk about this offseason. So make sure you stick around for that and are subscribed.